Hello. Oh. So, this is a video I wanted to do for a while. Actually, really unprepared for it. Camera's almost dead, so I'll probably have to film this in segments. I'm gonna hit the camera now. Let's have it. Stop. Yeah, so I wanted to talk about this in film because I feel like I have slightly sort of a unique perspective on this very currently overlooked aspect of soldiering and being a security professional. Excuse me, and that's the usage of a knife as a weapon. And I kind of filmed a thing about it, and I think it got deleted or something like that. But anyway, um, at the time of getting this particular knife, I was under an operational requirement that needed me to be able to break a clinch or possibly kill someone who is with coffee breath close, and having limited access to weaponry and being potentially in a crowd. It was something it's a tricky situation. Your reactionary envelope, that gap is done, it's gone, and you have someone either grabbing you or attempting to deploy a knife of their own or a weapon of their own, and getting to your souped up Glock or your submachine gun or your Mark 18 may not be the option, right? So we were specifically allowed to carry fighting knives. I know this is a huge shock because only DevGru carries fighting knives. I say that because they have the Winkler NSW knife. That's their baby, right? I actually really liked that knife, but it was too big for certain operational limitations. So I asked my team medic if he knew anyone who made knives, and he did. So I approached him with a very vague set of instructions. I told him what it was going to be used for. It was going to be to potentially kill someone, and what I knew to be, what I was familiar with so far as application of a knife in a fight. All my formalized training has to do with the Fairbairn Sykes or traditional daggers. That's all my training with knives. I don't have any karambit training or karambit, however the fuck you say it. Any sort of slashing training is beyond me. All my training's been traditional sentry elimination techniques and fighting techniques with a dagger, whether that be ice pick or traditional grip. That's what it is. So I wanted to work within the confines of what I knew, because I didn't want to bring in a piece of equipment to my first line and not know how to use it or potentially deploy it hazardously. So that was one of the requirements. It needed to be a dagger. It needed to have a fairly thick blade-ish to not snap. I wanted a sculpted handle. I showed him the NSW dagger, and I was like, essentially I said I wanted something like this but smaller, because that was one of the big requirements. It needed to be a fixed blade that was concealable. And I'll show you the knife in a minute, and I think you'll say, "Oh shit, that's not really fucking concealable." But when you have certain operational limitations and you want certain performance standards out of your knife, you have to make a compromise somewhere. You're not going to readily kill someone with a 2-inch blade, right? I know some people will say, well, you could cut a jugular with that. When you're coffee breath close with someone, you're limited in your application of that knife. So it was something I wanted to be pretty versatile and something that I could hide pretty well. So, of course, it's a carbon steel. It's 1095 carbon steel. So for any knife aficionados, please scoff at it if you want. My team medic thought he would be a dickhead and get skulls painted onto the blade, which I thought was hilarious. Anyway, the knife geometry is spear point blade. Uh, I'm not quite familiar with the grind. Full tang, micarta handles, and it's a decent little knife. But again, my operational requirements dictated something semi-concealable and something that you could use to potentially incapacitate someone pretty quickly. And as we all know, the Iraqis are not super stout, not all of them. So one of the requirements, and I'm not going to get into why. I'm sure someone, excuse me, who's really smart or familiar will be able to figure out the reason. But I wanted a 5-inch blade for tactical and other reasons. So that was one of the other requirements. 5-inch blade, spear point design, full tang. And so one of the other things I really liked was the palm swell on the V42 style commando knives. I thought that was really nice. So I wanted that, and I got kind of an interpretive style of that. It's not as dramatic as I potentially would have liked, and so I don't feel like it makes enough of a difference, but it's there. For what I paid for the knife, I paid what a factory run of a Tops knife would cost, but I was able to, give a lot of input. So I feel like I got it for steel, and this is probably the only hand forged model I've ever owned, and it is hand forged. So overall, like, even if it's not something that it fits the bill perfectly, I thought it was a pretty awesome interpretation for the money. So we'll look at the knife, and just from handling it, I'll talk about what I've noticed. Don't look at the stuff that's not for you. So I don't know if this view is actually going to work, but you have the knife here. These are fairly narrow sculpting channels. I don't know if this is working. So as you can see, they're not really finger grooves, right? They add irregularities in the geometry of the handle, but they're definitely not there to be finger grooves. You can see 3 different pins for the handles themselves. I don't know if you can see that. You can see the palm swell in the handle itself on here. Now it's really only on the lateral side right here, because vertically there is no palm swell. You see. So that was a bit of a disappointment, and I would have preferred the thumb ramp here, because I did mention that if it was possible I would have really enjoyed a thumb ramp. I would have enjoyed that. I would have loved for that to be more pronounced. So that was one thing I was definitely looking for, and the whole idea was basically a modern interpretation of some of the commando knives out there, specifically the agent variation of the Fairbairn Sykes. So I don't know if I have a comparison to see how thick the blade is. I don't know if this is going to work at all. I haven't done this yet. So I have my bayonet here that I used to carry. I don't know if that's comparable, but you can see it's a fairly thick blade. I don't have a micrometer, so I can't tell you exactly how thick it is, but there it is. It's got 2 choils on the side. I potentially would have not wanted the choils, but that's okay. I believe that there's an ease in manufacturing, ease in sharpening when you have that. The dagger itself looks pretty straight when you look at it, which is nice for someone who I fucking don't know from Adam, right? But it looks like a pretty straight grind, and the blade looks nice and symmetric. So aside from the obnoxious paint on the blade, which you can easily remove, it's a pretty nice knife. And for the price, I got a Kydex sheath. Now there is some play with this sheath. Okay, I don't know if you can hear that. There is some play, and it does come up over the handle. And one of the problems I've found when trying to index for a pull, you can choke up past where the handle is. So when you come out, your fingers can potentially come down on the blade, which is obviously not a good thing, especially if you're deploying this in a duress situation and you choke up too much. You may end up cutting yourself a little bit, and part of the reason for that is the handle is really short, and the designer obviously sacrificed some of the handle to get the blade requirements, but also not have this turn into a fucking ice pick that you're shoving down your pants. So, you know, for the future, because I still think I'm going to pursue trying to modernize and get out an agent's knife or a modern Fairbairn Sykes. And I know a few knife companies make Fairbairn Sykes with modern materials, but I kind of want to combine the best of both worlds with a few different models. And I think I might want a wider blade to create a bigger wound channel. So those are some preliminary thoughts on it. You'll notice I don't have a mounting system hooked up to this yet. One was included, which is a 360 belt loop. It's adjustable. I haven't attached it yet because I don't have the proper fasteners for it. I don't know if that's the one I'm going to go with, or if I'm going to send this into Blade Rigs for a sheath that's a little more precise. But again, for the money, I couldn't really complain. I wouldn't have expected a Kydex sheath for how little I paid for this. So I think it's a nice little pig sticker, as they say. But if anyone's interested in giving this guy some business, I can discreetly point you in his direction. He's not a business. He's to my knowledge, he doesn't have a store. He doesn't have a website. So a lot of his jobs are word of mouth. He's focusing a lot currently on swords and tomahawks. So I think I don't regret at all being a part of his growing experience. And you know, he let me have something really cheaply because he knew. Well, I knew his friend, the medic, but he also knew that I'm an end user professional. One of the only stipulations was that if I were to kill someone with it, he wanted some sort of proof or account of it. So I had to promise him that, which is you know, fine. I don't usually kiss and tell, but you know, I would be particularly proud too if something I spent hours on hand making and ended someone's life, you know. Because let's be honest, you know, we make firearms and we make knives and we act like they're not designed to kill people, or, you know, like Mikhail Kalashnikov alleging he didn't realize his gun would kill so many people. Come on, that's why we make these things. We want to make it easier for you to fucking kill people. That's just it. So that's the knife, and that's kind of the operational requirement that drove me to try and commission this knife. I don't usually get gear without an operational need in mind, and I feel a little strange in that, because I don't make gear purchases to make gear purchases. They're very requirement driven, and sometimes that makes it really hard to actually get the gear in a timely manner, especially pre-deployment, because COTS options are often sold out, like Crye Precision, and I'm not really cool enough for Crye Precision, and that's the thing. I don't want you guys to think I'm fucking cool. Crye Precision doesn't really want to talk to me on an individual level, so don't think I'm too cool. I like their gear, but it's just so damn hard to get. So I usually don't buy Crye, just simply because I have time-sensitive requirements, and I usually buy what's available and what I know can perform. So this was actually a knife that I purchased and this was for a job or or a duty where knife fighting was actually part of the pre-deployment workup. And that was a real, not necessarily a shocker, but it was definitely different. It was different for me. Any past operational experience, yeah, hand-to-hand combat was a thing, but it was never explicitly expected. In the military, you train hand-to-hand. You may, if you're bored, you'll break out the Sentry Elimination uh, book or whatever the fuck it is, and you'll mess around with that. But this was the first time in my life where, you know, we actually spent some time training with knives, mostly in a defensive role, but we did do some takedowns. So, and we were given the option. We said, hey, you can carry a knife, and it's kind of recommended. Um, so it was the first time for that, and that was an interesting thing to contend with. A lot of guys went with the tried and true Benchmade knives, and a lot of factory run stuff. Because hey, if you lose it, there's no big deal, right? It's not a fucking Winkler that you're losing at the bottom of the wadi. Um, which I totally get, and for the longest time I've been a proponent of Benchmade and SOG. Something, in my mind, disposable knives. Knives are largely, for the longest time, I viewed them as disposable items, like a fucking magazine. And only in the past couple of years have I started getting into higher end. I guess I can put it back over here. I started getting into higher end knives, and for what I do with them, which is beat the shit out of them, I feel like I do get more performance out of a higher end knife. But I do feel like there's an enthusiast level, and I don't know if people like to make that allegation, or if they kind of accept the idea that certain knives are just so expensive that they don't have a practical use. Um, so certain things are lost on me. I just want a knife that I can beat the shit out of, and it'll always work. So I'm definitely prepared to pay a lot more comparatively than I was when I was a private. Uh, Granted, my salary is bigger, but I didn't really see a point in paying more for a knife that I could potentially lose in a TA. It's like whatever, just go buy a SOG at the PX. Same thing. I didn't really understand metallurgy at all, and I didn't understand, you know, well, the blade keeps chipping because it's brittle and it's made from China and it's not heat treated properly. So I definitely got more invested in that, and I view it. It's to me, it's just like knowing gear. Knowing that pack cloth is not the same as 500D Cordura. You know, so depending on what you need from the knife, I feel like there's usually a price point for you. Unfortunately, I feel like most people, or at least most Americans, don't like to be told that they don't need something, and I think too often people are told, uh, well, you know, I guess I'm kind of contradicting myself here. I think people are told too often that they don't need a fighting knife, and I'll get into my dislike of the phobia around fighting knives, or the taboo that's there. Because if no one fucking needed a fighting knife, they wouldn't be around. I realize there's a lot of mall ninjas, a lot of people buy them for no reason, and a lot of dual use knives. But we see it time and time again that these fighting knives are popping up from reputable people, usually from reputable customers. There's a need for it. It's very niche. It's very small. Not a very small portion of the population within the tactical community require fighting knives, and by that I mean require, not want. In the military, I carried a bayonet for a long time, and not because I required it. I wanted to carry a bayonet. I thought the symbolism and the tradition behind the bayonet was very important, and I liked it. I liked what that bayonet kind of represented, and it was extremely useful. I spent a lot of time in austere environments, and I used this thing for pretty much everything but a weapon. That's okay. It's an infantryman's next best thing to a fucking radio. something you should always have with you. And I think it's kind of disappointing that a lot of units don't issue these out. They'll have them in supply. I mean, I'm pretty sure every line unit has these, but they don't issue them because they don't want to lose them. Um, but honestly, it was a great little camp knife to have on all the cops and various piece of shit backcountry places I went. It helped a lot, from popping open ammo cans to opening up MREs. So don't, if there's any officers out there, fucking issue your bayonets, man. And get over yourself if you think it's ridiculous or mall ninja to have a bayonet around. It's helpful. Um, so the Russians fucking they think the bayonet's still useful. So you know, I'm not saying copy the Russians. I'm just saying, you know, you maybe in a bayonet fight without a bayonet. What are you gonna do? You're just gonna club them with your plastic stocked M4? I don't know, man. I think I actually don't know if this is true. I don't remember if the carbine program had redacted the bayonet lug. Obviously, the bayonet lug's missing from the SOTMA Block 2 package, and I think it's probably going to stay missing. Um, so even if they did redact it completely, it's still a great camp knife, could be a good fighting knife. So that was a sort of quasi review on the hand forged knife I have, probably the only hand forged knife I may ever get, unless my financial situation radically changes. But it was driven by a specific need to protect myself and potentially kill someone. So, I guess I wanted to illustrate that there are people out there who have that concern, and I'm sure some people would say, "Well, you're just overcomplicating things, man. Just use GFT or defensive tactics and just get to your Glock, or whatever the fuck your sidearm is, your M17." In my mind, if I'm clinching or something like that, and I can stick 5 inches of steel in your side, collapse your lung or what have you, I'm gonna want to do that. I don't want to roll on the mats, man. I don't weigh that much, and I realize a lot of the people we've been fighting don't weigh a lot, but at some point we may fight someone who fields 200-pound kvass or borscht-fed, young bucks. And I'm getting older too, so being able to brute strength someone is steadily becoming a statistically lesser possibility. So I'm looking to decisively win my fights. I don't want to sit there and fuck around trading blows or trying to get a joint lock. So I I don't think it's a big deal, but again, I think I've made mention of it. If you do want to incorporate a knife into your first line, be it concealed or overt, please, for the love of God, train. Train with your knife, and basic knife handling, basic attacks with a dagger or a curved blade, pretty widely available online. And just like a dry fire drill or draw stroke, it's going to help you out. It's going to pay dividends in the long run. To quote the Waffen SS, sweat saves blood. So, listen to that. I know a knife just sits here. It just sits here. And it's very easy to overlook in terms of your training regimen, especially if you have more autonomy with what and how you train, and you're not being forced onto a particular range or training schedule due to your company command or battalion command or your group command. So pay attention to that, and I realize it's the condom you never want to use, right? You have it just in case. That doesn't mean you should overlook it, I can't show you how well this conceals because I don't have it set up yet, but as you can see, it's a fairly well made sheath, and small handle though. So, but anyway, yeah, please train with your knives. Realize that some people do need defensive or combat knives for a reason. I'd prefer not to fucking even think about carrying one. To be, clear, I'd rather deploy my long gun or deploy a handgun. But if your posture is covert, chances are your long gun isn't even on you, right? So you're gonna have maybe a handgun, maybe a knife. You're gonna have what you have. So you have to adjust to the situation and the circumstances you're in. But don't feel ashamed, or don't feel a mall ninja attack because you're doing something different. So, and to offer some anecdotal evidence of just be the cool guy. Get your bayonet out of supply if you're in the infantry, or if you're wherever. But this is government issue property. Well, this one isn't. I bought this. I didn't steal it. Um, get your government issued property out of fucking supply and use it, man. Don't bang up a knife that you bought. This is a perfectly great camp knife. It's a do-all knife. It's a pry bar, for God's sake. Don't fucking snap your blade when you have these sitting in supply. Tell your captain to fuck off. Go get your individual unit armors together. Issue these fucking things out. Save your money. Break these, please. And again, it's great for esprit de corps. I started carrying this, and eventually everyone in my unit had a bayonet, whether it was on them or it was in their assault pack. But after being made fun of for a while, everyone started to realize just how handy they are. And again, it's not your fucking money. This is something that sits in supply. So don't let your first sergeant or your company commander's fear of losing inventory control what you do around the cop. So tell them, like I said, tell them fuck off. Tell them Ishmael said fuck off. Refer them here to this channel, and I'll tell them how to run a company better. But yeah, and don't bother asking why there's black masking tape over the sheath. So anyway, I will re-adjourn this meeting of the minds after I have disemboweled a threat on the field of battle.